So, JL, this question's for you.
Yes.
How much of the concern for our civil rights being violated relates to a general mistrust of our government? And how shall our government regain the trust of its people?
Well, it all relates to the mistrust of the government, but the government is the one that actually, goes out and nabs people in the night or causes them heart attacks while they're out walking around their house in the middle of the night for whatever reason. The people, in my viewpoint, the people would trust the government again if the president were to go in and clean house, as I've been stating, and put Congress on notice, charge them with sedition, seize everything they own, everything their families own, until they comply with the law. And that is Title 18. There's quite a few laws against seditious acts, against taking bribes, against fraud, and they need to be enforced. Special interests need to be totally wiped out. Lobbyists need to go to prison. And yeah, that includes even the small lobbyists that are looking for, extra cookie shells out on the street corners. They need to be held accountable.
Okay, give me 30 seconds on this. JL, because I want a clarification right now. If if we gave present Congress and the lobbyists a pass, so to speak, and gave them the opportunity to stay out of jail, would you, let's say, I don't know what the terminology is, but give them a pass so that they wouldn't have to go to jail now, but that they would be basically ousted? Would you do that?
Oh yeah, they would have the option. Come clean, fess up, and either play the game lawfully, or there's no other option. You either play by the books or you're going away. You can quit, but you're going to forfeit everything you've taken in bribes, and that could be given back to, I don't know, can't give it back to the Treasury because most of it is usury fees anyway, which relates to the Federal Reserve System.
So this question I'm going to ask again, Harry. How much of the concern for our civil rights being violated relates to a general mistrust of our government, and how shall our government regain the trust of its people?
Well, the first part of the question is a bit impossible for me to say, but I can tell you when it comes to what's it going to take to get the American people to have trust in their government, I think the first thing, you need to have a government that doesn't operate in all of its important policy decisions in secret. Everything needs to be above board. And secondly, you need to put the people in charge of the federal government, so ultimately the citizens are in charge, the majority of citizens, and not a tiny handful of people who make decisions in secret with lobbyists and other people that are bribing them one way or the other. That's, I think, the only way that the average person is going to believe that their government is actually operating in their interest instead of serving the interests of the super rich who really don't need our help.
Okay. Andre, can you address this issue of trust in our government? How do we regain trust again?
Well, I think a great deal has to do with the general consensus that people do not trust the government and the secrecy that shrouds their decision making. The only way that they get it back, and I have to agree that it's got to be when people have the power. And as I've said before, we have to roll back all of that legislation that was put in place and drafted within the time frame from the 30s to the 70s, when we were actually in a perpetual state of emergency. And those pieces of legislation, and it's not just consigned that time period, but further into the future as well. Just recently, when we have pieces of legislation that indicate that we can, the government can go up to any corporate entity, seize assets, go to private citizens, seize assets, seize water rights, agricultural assets, things of that nature. That tends to put people on edge. And when the government has that kind of power, we really have to rethink what level of authority they have over our day-to-day lives. And that's the only way we really get the trust back, is by rolling back that power and putting people in place that will actually do that.
For 30 seconds. Andre, I want you to clarify about this, the government seizing the people's property and that sort of thing. Where did you come up with this?
If you go, you can go to any opencongress.org is one of the basic fundamental sites that you can go to, and look at the executive orders that have been put out in the piece of legislation. One of the latest signed by President Obama, and a few that were signed just in the latter end or the latter part of President Bush's time in office, allowed the government to actually come in and seize assets. This is something that was done for quite some time now.
Okay, JL, do you want to speak to that? 30 seconds.
Well, just mention that U.S. Code 10, Title 10, did allow for much of this. In fact, that's partially what President Lincoln had used in the war between the states. Because if you're aware, the Confederacy was never declared a legitimate entity, so that meant the government was using military forces against the citizenry. There, I guess that helped.
Okay, and Harry, do you want to speak to this? You have 30 seconds.
Well, I would just say this. I think that it's hard to separate government from business, because business influences government and government serves business. We talk about, well, we want freedom for corporations. Well, right now we've allowed corporations to have the freedom to contaminate every man, woman, and child in the country. I don't think that's the kind of freedom that we, the majority of citizens or any sane person, would want to empower corporations or the government to do. So you have a situation where our government and industry are so interlocked. There are no regulatory agencies except to help corporations make more money.
Okay, Andre. You have 30 seconds, Andre, to finish up.
I'll agree. However, all right, I'll agree, but we really need to stick to that subject matter and say that, until we actually roll back the power of the government, it doesn't matter what business does. As long as we are able to roll back that power of the government to back within the framework of the Constitution, then and only then can we actually reestablish trust for the citizenry in the government.
Okay, we'll move on to the next question.
The government's too big, and we want to get it out of corporations' way. I guess my question is, does that mean we're going to allow these corporations to continue to poison us? Should corporations be free to put the worst? There's over 85,000 of the most toxic chemicals known to man that were made legal by chemical industry lobbyists. And so they're not violating the law when they poison us and turn our minds to mush, or our children are born autistic or mentally deranged, because these poisons are in the blood of the pregnant women. They're in the blood of you, Andre, and me. And there isn't any living thing on the earth that has not been contaminated because of a grotesque lack of government regulation of private corporations who are only interested in making money. Profit is the only thing private corporations care about. They don't care if they have to poison people.
Let's kind of roll this back. I think the moderator wanted to hold this off until the end.
That's okay, Andre. Just answer the question.
I'll address it very quickly.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll address it really quickly. Number one, I didn't say that government needs to get out of the way of business. I didn't say that business needs to run rampant. What I said is we need to roll back the power of the government. Now, that does not mean that the government does not regulate anything. I'm not saying that they don't have regulation authority over what businesses can put out or produce, or they can disseminate into the community, into our citizenry. What I am saying is that we can't allow government to legislate the lives of individuals. We can't allow government to legislate your home. We can't allow government to legislate those things that are basic and core essential rights to American people. That is not what their directive was under the Constitution. That's what I said. I never said anything about businesses running rampant.
Okay.